very good evening to you, South Africa, those watching around the world. My name is Blain Herman, and this is It's Topical. As always, we have a packed program for you tonight, and as always, our central voice is here, our digital audience. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. They are indeed joining us from all corners of the country via Zoom with pertinent views on the issues of the day. They are here to observe the discussions tonight and also jump in and add their input. That's what the program is all about. It's live, it's immediate, it's direct, and also it's a special day to our greatest teachers, to those who inspire us, to those who love us unconditionally, to all those who understand what a child does not say. Happy Mother's Day to you from all of us here at It's Topical. As someone once said to me, a mother is a person who can take the place of all others, but whose place no one else can take. So true. May God bless you all, you beautiful, fearless, resilient mothers with nothing but happiness and peace. However, there are moms out there who are currently mourning, those who have lost their sons and daughters. Our collective hearts go out to you, which leads us to the question of the week. The murder involving politicians, both as victims and suspects. It's a serious issue, right? It has wide-ranging consequences. So we're trying to figure out whether the killings are indeed political. We want to talk about the criminal factor. And also, like what the Moirane Commission was trying to figure out, which I'll tell you more about shortly, are there any other internal or external influences or factors relevant with regards to the killing? So it brings us to our question: what are the underlying causes of the killings of politicians in South Africa? That is the question of the day. Walk with me while we get ready for the roundup. I want to remind you about some important numbers. 011-714-5958 is the number to dial. Please give us a call. You can remain anonymous if you want to, but we want to hear your stories. Also, at It's Topical SABC, that's where we are. Lots of other platforms as well. Now, time for your roundup. Right, to the roundup of the top stories. The three suspects are expected to appear at the Nelspruit Magistrates Court in connection with the murder of Hillary Guardi tomorrow. One of the suspects was arrested on Friday, while the other two were arrested over the weekend. The 28-year-old was abducted 2 weeks ago, and her body was found at a timber plantation about 40 kilometers outside Mngomezulu. Hillary was last seen shopping at a plaza in Mngomezulu on the 29th of April. During a befitting send-off yesterday, she was described as a selfless, compassionate and loving person. Her funeral service was also used to raise an awareness of gender-based violence. Also in a touching moment, Hillary's father and former EFF Secretary General Guardi sent this touching tribute to his daughter. Take a look.
In you, we saw a bright future. Little did we know you'll die a tragic death. A death characterized by boot prints on your chest, a blunt object striking your head, stab wounds on your breast and back, a gunshot at the back of your head, and a bleeding nose. It never occurred to me and your loved ones in the family that we will have to identify you in a bush lying face down, with your hands clutching tightly on grass and shrubs, fighting for your life.
It breaks your heart, doesn't it? Parents shouldn't be burying their children. It touches me personally as a father as well. You know, that pain that pulls at your heart when you hear Ms. Guardi there. Here's what you had to say on the SABC YouTube channel in response to Mr. Guardi's tribute. And you can see it garnered over 26,000 views. And I want to just give you a sense of what we're talking about and some of the comments that you made. Mystic Man saying, that's what he's saying. He is a bigger man than I am. I would not have been able to do this message. Rest in peace, Hillary. With tears in my eyes, I'm sorry for what you went through. Nobody deserves to die like this. Let's look at a few more comments as well. Mary is saying, Mary Edwards, such a moving memorial encompassing so much, ensuring Hillary is not only known, but the circumstances of her tragic death within the current disturbed landscape that is South Africa today made her foundation become a beaconhead to the youth in the name. That's where it ends. So that's basically encompasses your thoughts as well. Don't forget, you can also find us on this YouTube channel as well. We up there. You can get all our details. This is my colleague Crisaldo Lewis, by the way. So thank you very much indeed for engaging with us as well. Let's get you another story that is getting people talking. And what's happening in the Eastern Cape currently. The close of the 9th ANC Provincial Conference has been delayed due to disagreements over the adoption of credentials. This has forced President Cyril Ramaphosa, to postpone his closing address, initially scheduled for today to tomorrow. Earlier, Oscar Maboyane charged that some national leaders are taking advantage of his province for their own selfish interests, but ANC national spokesperson Pule Mabe dismissed the accusations as baseless and divisive. All right, I want to get the very latest now on the ground and bring in SABC political reporter Samkele Maseko, who's live for us at the conference. Samkele, a very good evening to you. Credentials, the issue at hand, sticky points. Tell us more.
Essentially, Blain, what is happening is that credentials were presented to plenary yesterday, and there were issues with them, and they did adjourn, and the steering committee went to clean them up. They were later on this morning in order to address the concerns of those supporting Babalo Matigizela of bogus delegates. Every delegate through every region, they had to enter with their tag, with their ID in the morning to sift out any individuals who are not meant to be in plenary. Then it was meant to be a swift program, a swift process in order to present credentials, adopt credentials. But since this morning, they have not moved an inch on the issue of credentials. There was an issue when credentials were about to be adopted about 2 hours ago. They then had to adjourn because the conference was almost descending into chaos and almost collapsing, and the steering committee had to go iron out the few other issues that were now again being raised by supporters of Babalo Matigizela. Stellantabeni Abraham, speaking on behalf of the provincial task team, said that they are now running out of patience of dealing with these issues, and they may ultimately have to put the issue of credentials to a vote, which may ultimately culminate in other chaos ensuing within plenary as they have to vote for this particular issue. But as you see, as of this point in time, they are still behind locked doors in plenary dealing with this issue of credentials. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is meant to come tomorrow to close this conference, but it doesn't look like he will actually have that opportunity in the early hours of the morning to address this conference. If it happens to even get there, he may only address this conference late in the afternoon tomorrow. One wonders what some of these delegates will be saying to their employers tomorrow for not pitching up for work.
I wonder, with all this going on, what sort of conversations are being had, if any, with regards to policy issues of oil and gas explorations, for instance, the issue of economic transformation in that province? Any?
There have been no deliberations at this point in time on policy issues, none whatsoever. The only topical issue that's been there is the credentials issue, because essentially conference can't begin until credentials are open. Credentials are essentially what opens up the start of a conference. As you can see with those individuals going in now, those security guards are checking every delegate's tag and essentially making sure that they are delegates legitimately to this conference, as they only voting delegates can enter that plenary, and some support staff only, in order to get over this hurdle of credentials, which is very contentious. In 2017, that's what ultimately led to the Festival of Chairs. There are still some people disputing those credentials, and as we can hear some noises coming from the plenary floor.
All right, Samket, if there's any developments, you got our number, get back to us. We'll get you on air straight away, get the viewers the very latest. Stock up on the coffee, my friend. It's going to be a long night. Appreciate your reporting there. Samket Maseko live for us in the Eastern Cape. Now to one of the main topics of the day, and on the word on the street feature. No place is too far for us. We traveled to the Eastern Cape to get you the views and reactions of the people of Uitenhage after two politicians in the Nelson Mandela region were shot and killed in broad daylight on Workers' Day. Let's listen to what you had to say.
Ngaske abantu abathumela abantu kuba mababulale bayicinge into yokuba akabulali only laa mntu umnye ubulala isizwe.
Singanqwenela abantu bomthetho bakhawuleze babafumane ebabulali. Ubuhlungu kakhulu ngoba abantu.
Ayindivisi kamandi bhuti tu into eyenzekayo etinarha basibulalane kwasodwa. Imbi bethunana khaniyekeni ukhohlakala.
Okanye uba ingxaki phakathi kanye embuthweni wabo osingazivozi ibhlungu into bakufe abantu bangakhange babe bagulile bathini na. So ayimandanga into yepolitiki into abantu bavele babulalane ngenxa yonyoluka kwabo kanye ngomonelana kwabo. Umona ulunganga.
Andiboni into eright mina because bashiya abafazi ababantu, bashiya abantwana, bashiya omama babo, bashiya like i-families man mhlawumbi bona bazi-breadwinners zalamakhaya uyabo.
Siyabulawa kungekho sizathu. Asiyazi ba sifa isifo yintoni na. Because uthi uhamba nasendleleni uvele udutyulwe ungasazi sizathu uba udutyulelwa ntoni na.
This is unaccepted. You see, when you win some time, people they harassing you to kill you. This is something that nobody can accept it. But we are hope maybe tomorrow, maybe the one in charge of the post is going to fix it. Thanks.
It's becoming a very popular element of the program. Why? It's because you are having your say right here on It's Topical. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to bring in the SABC specialist researcher. We got some interesting statistics to show you with regards to killings here in South Africa. Next. Watching It's Topical. It's a program that puts you, our viewers, at the center of the discussions. Please have your say regarding the burning issue of the week. Interact with us on social media platforms. We're asking you with regards to the killing of politicians. What are the underlying causes or issues with regards to this? That's what we're trying to dig up today and get some answers. But let me give you some context. You'll remember back in 2016, the former KZN Premier, Willis Mngomezulu, established a commission of inquiry into the underlying causes of the murder and attempted murder of politicians in KwaZulu-Natal. So the Moirane Commission looked at these underlying causes, what I was talking about. Now, these are just, I'm going to just show you a few slides that we have. These are just some of the findings of the Moirane Commission into political killings in KwaZulu-Natal. Let's just run through it very briefly. The murder of politicians were at a local level involving, and this is very interesting, mainly councillors, potential councillors and branch leaders of a political organization. I'm going to get some reaction to why this is the case as well. Evidence that language used by politicians is sometimes provocative, incites violence. Evidence that suggested that the culture of violence had taken root in the province, and this culture had its roots in the colonial and apartheid eras. These are just some of the recommendations now from the Moirane Commission. Political parties must take responsibility for the violent competition between their members for political positions and power. Are they doing this? Are they taking responsibility with regards to that? Political parties urgently educate their members about democratic practices. Political parties must discipline their members who conduct or encourage or results in political intolerance and violence. Again, the question is, are they doing that? And investigations, of course, of corrupt activities the attendant criminal acts must be vigorously investigated. Is that the case? So in a nutshell, what some of the underlying causes of the murder of politicians in KwaZulu-Natal in particular. I want to broaden this. Follow me with regards to this conversation. Let me bring in a better mind in terms of talking to us about some of the facts that Maswele Ralebona is the SABC specialist researcher here. You've compiled, Maswele, some research for us, and I want to look at, if we have it, let's just put it up and look at the summary of killings, and I think it was a period of 12 years. You took it from 2010 to 2022. What did you find?
When we look at some of these killings, Blain, thank you for having me. Let's contextualize it. Let's bring cases that people knows and give it a meaning. Let's go to Northwest, in the Rustenburg municipality, where Mos Phakwe, who was a councillor, ANC councillor in the Rustenburg local municipality, was killed. Mos Phakwe had compiled a dossier. Mos Phakwe had compiled a dossier of fraud and corruption involving some of the leadership in the municipality, and he gave it to the then Minister of Kokta, Sicelo Shiteka, and days later, Mos Phakwe was killed. Right. Then it tells you that this was a political killing. The motive was political because they wanted to silence this voice that's fighting for the safekeeping of public purse. Right. Then we go to Mpumalanga, where Jimmy Muhlala was killed, the former speaker of the Mbombela local municipality. The speaker had compiled a dossier of corruption and fraud involving some of the municipal officials, and we know what happened also there. The Muhlala was also killed. Let's go to KZN, where most of these killings are happening. You've got Asanda Magata, who was killed not long ago, and we know what happened. Asanda Magata was also a whistleblower in a corruption scandal in that municipality.
Sindiso was killed back in 2017. Yes. That case is still ongoing. It talks to some of the frustrations that certain families are going through. We're going to hear in a short while. You can't classify a killing as political without knowing the motive. Yes. From your research, what have you picked up in terms of possible motives for these killings?
Like I said in the beginning, Blain, in most of these cases, this is either these guys are whistleblowers in the municipality against their own councillors, either in the same political party or opposing parties, or in most cases are people who are contesting the same ward or the same elections in the same council. So they, because of the list disputes, or the guy or someone wins to become a branch chairperson of a certain political party, and they become enemies, or they are dispute, and others they resolve this dispute through violence.
I wonder if we have, if we can bring in our digital audience now and maybe just talk to them about some of their views with regards to what we're talking about. There we have them, digital audience. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. Pelele, talk to us with regards to your experience on the ground. What do you think is the causes or the underlying causes of politicians being killed? If you can unmute, please. You with us, Spelele? There we go.
Yes, I'm with you. Good evening, and good evening to your viewers. I think your research have nailed it. Though the killings do not is not limited to politicians. Yeah. Some of the people are administrators. They get killed if they investigate, or if they are doing their work. Like, for instance, my brother was never a politician. He was an internal auditor who was then murdered at Kwanongo.
So you personally experienced this. Our deepest condolences to you and your family. What has come of that case? Have you found the perpetrators?
Yes, yes. The perpetrators were found, but there's a very deep the issue of our law sometimes is letting families down. The perpetrators were found, the evidence was there, but we were failed by the courts.
Spelele, thank you very much indeed for sharing. Let's bring in Nocolo. I understand Nocolo is from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, a political science student, if I'm not mistaken. Is this the general conversations what sort of conversations, rather, let me just start there, are you having with regards to the killings of politicians, in particular in KwaZulu-Natal? You heard what Spelele had to say in terms of, thinking that he has, or his family has been failed by the courts. What's your take?
Well, evening, Blain, and the viewers at home. So this is a very worrying issue, firstly. South Africa is a country that has sustained itself through violence. However, this kind of violence is in no way justifiable, no means of sustaining. We know how pronounced political killings were prior to 1994. But the thing is, despite the inception of democracy, this issue nonetheless survived the transition. But I believe that this time around, it's all stem around from corruption, the eased access of firearms, and the pure criminalism from the perpetrators.
Nocolo, thank you very much indeed. Asanda Magata, familiar name to many, but some might not know that you're related to Sindiso Magata. I remember covering his story in KwaZulu-Natal back in 2017. He passed away. And that case, I was just telling Maswele, that case is still before the courts. What's your family going through? If you can unmute Asanda. Asanda.
My apologies for that, Blain. I hope I'm audible now.
You are.
A very good evening to you and to your panelists, as well as to the audience that is watching us currently. September is going to mark 5 years since Sindiso's demise. And you asked the question, how is the family doing? I was hoping that my brother, Lwazi, who has been the spokesperson for the family all of these years, would be the one speaking instead of me. But in his absence, I am mandated, therefore, to speak on behalf of the family. You asked a question, how is the family doing? We've already said it's been 5 years. It's going to be 5 years in September. 2 months ago, when 3 of the accused in his case got bail, my brother Lwazi spoke to one of the media organizations and spoke about how unsafe, we feel. I'm in a better position because I'm not located in Mngomezulu. The rest are. His mother, Madlamini, broke down in tears. She perpetually complains about, poor health, which she has had, but it completely broke her to lose a son that she dearly loved, a son who was a breadwinner, a son who loved his children, 3 daughters that he has, who for 5 years have not had their father with them. I'll even mention an example of, I think, a few months after we unveiled his tombstone in Mngomezulu, the current Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, Ronald Damola, was present at the unveiling as his former comrade. Yeah. A few months thereafter, his tombstone was vandalized. Now, you're sitting with a situation where there has been no justice. And at the same time, it seems that even while he's in his grave, the family still gets provoked. Now, I said 2 months ago, 3 people walked out on bail. The family does not feel safe. Usphelele Duma also mentioned, that, where is the justice in such situations? And I loved the case, your researcher just citing the different cases in different provinces. Likewise, in Sindiso's case, he had compiled a dossier of sort, very comprehensive. And I'll be very honest with you, Blain, and I say this, mindful of how precarious a situation it puts me and others. But Sindiso was very clear, even at the point of his death, that if anything should happen to me, please know that in this file I'm gathering of this corruption that is happening at Mngomezulu local municipality, these are the individuals at the forefront, and if anything happens to me, please understand that these would be the individuals that are responsible or likely responsible. Now, I cite this because currently in the dock, in the court at Ikopo Magistrates Court, you have individuals. And here we have to deal with the situation of hired guns and hitmen that are contracted to carry out these killings. But what we don't always acknowledge and want to fully be cognizant of is that a hired gun does not move unless it is directed and compelled to move in a certain direction. So briefly to answer your question, not doing so well, especially because it's going to be 5 years and up to now we don't know how my brother died and who gave the instruction, and those people are yet to face justice.
We are going to follow that case very closely. I just wanted to pick up on one question, the issue that you raised. You mentioned this dossier. Have your family submitted this dossier to law enforcement? Are they aware of it?
In fact, Blain, at the funeral, if those who were there, amongst the multitudes, including the televised audience, would have seen Sindiso's comrade and one of his best friends, Les, presenting that dossier in front of that audience. He cited names, he cited, the various doors and authorities that they went to knock at to present what they'd been able to gather. And equally so, my brother Lwazi was present at the Morane Commission, and he repeated the claims that were compiled in that dossier.
All right, Asanda Magata, related to Sindiso, the late Sindiso Magata, died back in 2017. Still, the trial is before court. Asanda, thank you very much indeed. Sbu Zikode is with us. He's the president of Abahlali Mngomezulu. And I understand, Sbu, our deepest condolences to you. Your organization is in mourning. Why? I've just learned that there was a death of a leader, Nobutula Mabaso, one of your organization's leaders. Talk to us, Sbu. What happened here?
Thank you so much, Blain. Thank you so much to your viewers and my fellow panelists here. Yes, we are mourning the death of Comrade Nobutula Mabaso, a mother of four, an activist, a leader of the Ekenana commune, but a leader of the Abahlali Women's League in the Ekenana community. Just 3 days ago, on Thursday, the 5th of May, just around 7:30 p.m., she was at the meeting, at the community meeting convened by the community of Ekenana, and then on her way to check for his pots as he was cooking, just few minutes, and the hall is just few minutes away from the community hall where the meeting was held. And then when she took 2 steps coming out of her home now, she was gunned down at least 6 times. This is a woman, defenseless, innocent, not a politician for that matter, not a businessman, not a rich person, a poor shack dweller who was trying to raise the issues of justice, the issues of decent housing, issues of land, but most importantly, that every community member of Abahlali has a shelter and the place called home. She was gunned down. Now, Nobutula is the 23rd person to have been assassinated since 2009. Amongst all the 23 people who have been killed, we were able to receive justice only on 2 of them. One of them was killed by the ANC councillors of eThekwini, who have been found guilty by the Durban High Court and are now serving life imprisonment in Kokstad prison. And the police officer, a constable, was also found guilty for shooting a 17-year-old Nobile Nzuza in Cattlecrest. Now, we are dealing with the question of impunity. Now, what worries us, this is an alliance between the local police station, the Katomena police station, the local ANC in Katomena, but also the Etwegen municipality are all to blame in the killing of Abahlali.
So obviously
the reasons are...
Now, I hear you. Obviously, these are allegations. We will have to prove them. And obviously, we'll need to get the ANC, as you mentioned, onto the program to get their right of reply as well. So just stick with us. We're going to have to take some comments now. Digital audience, stay with us. I'm going to come back to you guys in a short while. Maswele, thank you very much indeed for your time. Appreciate your insight. He's going to leave us now. But I want to get your sense in terms of the WhatsApp videos that you sent to us. 078 459 1819 is the number. Let's take a listen.
The problem with the politicians' killings is because of the cadres deployment. Because the politicians, they realize that they are entitled to occupy each and every position in the country. That is what is causing a lot of problem towards the politicians. In such a way, they're killing each other for position.
Politicians, they kill each other, fighting for the power and the positions. Sometimes they kill each other just to destroy the evidence against them for the corruption that they committed while they're in power. That's the main cause of the politician killings here in South Africa.
You send through WhatsApp. We're going to take a quick break. Remember, you can also give us a call. The number is 0117145958. We're also on Facebook. We're also on Twitter at It's Topical. We'd love to hear from you. Quick break. More next. Watching It's Topical is a program that puts you, our viewers, at the center of discussions. Please have your say regarding the burning issue of this past week. Interact with us on our social media platforms. Later on, we'll be taking some of your calls, so please stay tuned for that. Tonight, we're asking you, what are the underlying causes of politicians who get killed in South Africa? Let us know. Now, in Khadija, Kwanombuhle, in the Eastern Cape, where two men were shot and killed on Workers' Day. Andile Andries and Lubabalo Kesa were standing outside Andries' house when a minibus taxi approached them. They were shot in a hail of bullets on the day of a prayer meeting in honor of the two deceased. Its Topical producer, Hlela Mngomezulu, visited the Kesa family, and this is what she had to say.
This is Gareja, a township located in Kwanobuhle location, which is in Nelson Mandela Bay municipality. Andile Andries, who was the councillor for Ward 43 in this area, and Lubabalo Kesa, who was the branch secretary for Fikile Mahwangana branch, were both shot right here on the 1st of May in what is believed to be a politically related murder.
Emonti njengoba belidisha elinye icala lecamp which is icala likaMadikizela, so ibingabantu ke ngoku abalungiselela okuya kulo conference kulamacala mabini nguMadikizela ndengumabuyane nga.
We then visited Lubabalo Kesa's distraught family. They described him as a very responsible family man who also loved politics.
Apha kule province sikuyo siyafunda nasemaphepheni nasentweni lukhona ikhona ukhuthakhutwana olukhoyo ngenxa yezi positions. So ke thina xa sicinga selekhaya sithi hayi izizwe ngokuba ulubabalo lo wethu engumntu outspoken beyithetha into funeka ithethi sonzakela apha ulubabalo kwikhaya culturally besithuma yena kwinto zekhaya njengoba usibona basibangaka babakhulu sithi babalo uzawuthetha yonke into sinayo apha ekhaya ixesha elinzi besithuma yena umntu esoloko enxumile, umuntu othanda unceda, umuntu owenza yonke msasazi into yeli khaya.
In February 2022, Maswele Ralebona, who was also an ANC ward councillor, was killed in a hail of bullets in KwaZakhele in Gqeberha. And recently in Brits in the northwest, Nkomo was gunned down whilst attending an ANC branch meeting, and a 30-year-old female was injured in this incident. Between 2010 and 2022, there have been about 125 people who were killed in politically related incidents. For It's Topical, I am Nocolo in Gqeberha.
All right, Hlela, appreciate that report. Let's engage our digital audience now on our question. We're asking you, what are the underlying causes with regards to the killing of politicians in South Africa? They are still with us. You've been listening in. Let's pick it up with Minenhle Molife. Minenhle, just talk to us about your perspective. Do you think and do you feel, in terms of the conversations that you are having in your communities, is there a climate of fear and uncertainty that is preventing people from taking up a job as a councillor, for instance, or in public service, because they hear and they see what's happening in terms of the killing of politicians? What's your take?
Thank you for having me, and hello to my fellow panelists. I think my take is that people are concerned about the amount of killings that are occurring, and the killings keep increasing and increasing. When you get closer to voting, more and more killings. But I don't think that's stopping people from wanting to be councillors, because unemployment is so high. When you don't have access to other employment opportunities, being a councillor and the perceived or the access to resources you can get and helping the community. It's not preventing people from wanting to participate, right, and wanting to be councillors.
Let's get your take on the matter in terms of what you think is the cause, in terms of this creating this climate of fear, perceived or a reality here in South Africa.
Yes, briefly, it's important to note that political assassinations in South Africa, particularly in KZN, have existed in three phases: the oppressive era, the transition era, and the democratic era. Now, on the oppressive era, this situation is characterized by a period of apartheid or colonialism, where most of these assassinations were carried out by state security facilities, such as Flag Plus agents, towards people who were involved in the liberation struggle. Now, this is where we saw in KZN the death of Mama Victoria Mngenge, Mr. Griffiths Mngenge, and Dr. Rick Turner, to mention the least. Now, the common denominator in the biographies of people who died during the oppressive era, people who were assassinated, is the word activism. People were killed because of their political ideas. And then we have the transition era, which marks the period at the road to democracy. Now, this is characterized by the tensions, political tensions between political parties, particularly the ANC and the IFP. This is where we experienced in KZN the death of Sfiso Nkabinde, Muntu Gasa, Lizzie Makhathini. And then we have the democratic era, the one we live and exist in. Now, in this era, political assassinations are perpetuated by the quest or the squabbles to actually find positions in political power positions. And people are interested in these political power positions because of the monetary benefits these positions come with. Right, and then there's also an issue. There's also an issue of whistleblowers, that whoever ought to report an incident of maladministration or corruption in offices of public deployment is definitely most likely to become a citizen of the cemetery. So,
that's a very interesting point. And let's pick it up with Xolani Ndlovu, who's joining us as well. The safety of whistleblowers. I mean, from the conversations you're having, Xolani, in your community, if somebody has information about alleged corruption, will they come to the fore and spill the beans to get the situation right, or is there still this fear that I'll be killed?
Good evening to everyone and the viewers at home. So
with regards to the whistleblowers, whistleblowers in this democratic era, like, are still scared, like, to come forward. Maybe in the case when there's alleged corruption or political assassination that has taken place within the surrounding. So, because I think it also stems from the fact that these political killings or assassinations are not given that thoroughly attention within our country. Like, you look at, for instance, within our justice system, for instance, there's not been that a special attention that is given to political assassination. Earlier on, you spoke about the Moreno Commission, and then you look at the recommendations that were given during that commission, and most of those recommendations have not been implemented. And also, you can also within this political assassination, you look at the fact that I think it's only less than 10% of these it's only less than 10% that has been given attention as went to court and there's been a conviction.
So let's pick it up there.
So that means 90% just go out of the box. So you think with these kind of states, and you realize that an ordinary individual cannot come forward if there's an alleged political.
I hear you, Colonel, with regards to the issues you're raising, and it's a general sentiment, especially when you speak to families like Asanda Magata there. Let's bring in Bongenkosi Kanyile. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. What do you think is hindering an effective criminal justice system in terms of getting to the root of the matter? If you can unmute, Bongenkosi. If you can unmute.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I don't know whether am I audible.
You are. Go on. Very briefly.
Okay. Yeah. I think in South Africa we have a judiciary which is less effective. You look on how when you go to prison, most of people whom are convicted are people for petty crimes. Hardcore criminals are not there. So the effectiveness of how the judiciary is operating is one of the fundamental hindrances that we have in South Africa. The law is fine. Our constitution is fine. Our criminal procedure is fine. But when it comes to implementation, we have a fundamental problem in terms of ensuring that the judiciary leadership is transformed and is effective.
Bongenkosi, just pause it there. I want to bring in our guest, Professor Bheki Mngomezulu, political science professor at the University of the Western Cape. And probably he can give us some answers as well to your questions. Professor, good to have your better mind on the issue. Welcome to It's Topical. Let's get to the nub of the issues. Our question, what is at the heart? What is the underlying causes of politicians being killed? What's your take, sir?
No, thank you very much, Blain, for having me. I think that our point of departure should be that these killings do not necessarily happen in the same manner. So the causal factors are not exactly the same. And similarly, when you talk about the killers, they are not a homogeneous group. So they kill for different reasons. In the past, I've identified at least 5 causal factors. One is the issue of power. People want power at all costs. And if they realize that accessing that power through the normal channels is not possible, they then decide to eliminate their potential contenders. So that becomes one of the factors. Then the second one is money. As soon as money crept into politics, then people's lives were put in danger. Politicians will lie to you and tell you that they want to work for the people. The reality of the matter is they want to work for their own stomachs. And then if you stand on their way, they will definitely eliminate you. The third causal factor is corruption, which my other colleagues have just spoken to. Because these leaders engage in corrupt activities, the moment you want to expose such corruption, then obviously you are eliminated, so they silence you. Then the last but one is what people have been talking about, which I've written about in one of the pieces today, saying that our justice system is failing us in different ways. One, the police are responsible for collecting evidence, which evidence will be presented in court. And in some instances, you find that the same police officers tamper with evidence. By the time you present such evidence in court, it can't stand, and then the case is dismissed. Then the other area, of course, will be our judges. I'm one of the critics of our judges in the sense that some of our judges behave like politicians. Instead of them executing the law, they in fact play to the gallery of the politicians, and that doesn't help us at all. Then the last one is lack of political education / political maturity. If I kill you, Blain, then that means there is something wrong with my mentality. I kill you for a position, I get the position, forgetting that there is someone behind me who is going to do exactly the same thing. And I was talking to someone earlier today coming from the airport, saying that if this killing continue at the rate we are having right now, we'll end up being led by fools. Pardon my word. We'll be led by fools in the sense that those who are smart will be eliminated. And then those who know nothing are the ones who are going to lead us. That is the direction we're headed.
That was actually one of the recommendations from the Moirane Commission, where political parties were tasked to educate their members in terms of democratic practices. There seems to be a high value placed on political office, and obviously it's a national phenomenon. But why, explain to us, Prof, why are we seeing the killing of politicians in specific provinces?
There are a number of reasons. You know that, for example, let's talk about the ANC as the governing party. For quite some time, KwaZulu-Natal was the first province in terms of numbers, and it was followed by the Eastern Cape and then by Mpumalanga. But then in the last election, we've seen that KwaZulu-Natal has retained position 1, and then position 2 has been taken by Mpumalanga, and then Eastern Cape is in position 3. What then this means is that whenever it's an election year, either election for the ANC, like it is the case in 2022, or it's during the national and provincial election, or it's during the local government election, the stakes are high. Because not only are you dealing with the politicians and political parties that are operating in the 3 provinces, but you also have politicians in other provinces who have vested interest in what is happening in the 3 provinces I've referred to. The chaos, for example, that you are seeing right now in the Eastern Cape is as a result of that. Some of these problems are not necessarily coming from locally. Of course, the majority are, but then some of them are manufactured elsewhere because politicians at a national level have vested interest in the outcome of the provincial ANC election in the Eastern Cape, and the same will happen when it comes to KwaZulu-Natal because these are considered to be influential provinces. Then, of course, Mpumalanga is already in the back in the sense that the provincial election is done and dusted in that province. So those are some of the dynamics.
All right. Professor, stand by. I just want to play our viewers an insert. In Motlutung, Offense Nkomo was killed after attending a political branch meeting, and this has affected the people of the area. Let's listen to what they had to say.
These recent killings, political killings, they are really disturbing us because we don't know what is the motive behind all this. We don't know what is happening.
There is youth who are very much concerned. Now that they are being killed because of their positions, it worries even the parents the most because we are the parents of this youth.
This is affecting us all because if you take a look, most of us are unemployed because of these things, because there's a lot of manipulations that has been going on. So I feel like the moment you try to raise your voice, it's like you're gonna get threats and everything else.
I don't think I will allow because we point the whole chele pekiona it like ba focus on thing ba feletsa ba bolayana and then ba sa focus mulunze right since by the
it's so painful. I don't know why people are doing it.
Nelson Mandela let us be one. Let us build South Africa.
mara sweswiwani vona timhaka ta ku tala vanhu va dlayana hi swibamu phapapa ku endlekalani lexi swi ni twisa vuhlungu swilo leswiwani wa vona. Peace. Yeah, look, it's a similar sentiment being shared by a digital audience, and I think it was Sibu Sigode, president of Abahlali Basem Jundolo, who was talking about a culture of impunity. Professor Bheki Mngomezulu is still with us. Prof, how do we get rid of or eliminate a culture of impunity?
It's going to be a process, Blain. It can't be an event because this thing is now deeply rooted in our DNA. So to get it out of the system, it's going to take a collective effort. We cannot expect politicians to solve the problem that they created because they are benefiting from it. But unfortunately, as the public, we also need some form of education in the sense that we also contribute in this whole thing in one way or the other. For example, if you have a branch meeting, Blain is contesting, Bheki is contesting, you know that Bheki doesn't have what it takes to lead that branch, but then you still elect him anyway. And then Blain, who has all the skills and the know-how, is sidelined. And then, of course, the next thing that is going to happen is some people from within the branch will say, we want Blain to take this position, but he can't take it for as long as Bheki is there. And then the only way to address the situation is to eliminate Bheki.
Right.
So I think then what is necessary then here is what I referred to in my 5 points, saying that we need political education and we need political maturity.
Right.
And the way it works, it cannot only be focused on politicians, it also has to be directed to the voters because these are the people who are in fact the kingmakers and the queenmakers.
Right. Professor Bheki Mngomezulu, we appreciate you bearing in mind on this issue. Thank you very much indeed. God bless. We'll no doubt touch base with you in the near future. I want to get our viewers' comments with regards to Twitter. At It's Topical, we asked you the question, you've sent us your answers. Let's take a look at them now. Let's put it up, see what you have to say in this regard. Nkokwezi says crime is out of control and politicians enjoy throwing adjectives around. If they are not shocked, they are saddened. Tambani says killing your own is really barbaric. And Africa the Greatest, yeah, this is our South Africa. And he says the lust for power and wealth causes all common sense to disappear. Furthermore, a corrupt and weak justice system and police service allows criminals to act with impunity. It's something that Professor was talking about as well. Do you have time for one more? All right. Let's take... All right. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Time is running out, but here's my take. Politicians being killed. It is a stain on political life in this country. And we can't pretend that there is no civic harm. It creates insecurity. There's a climate of fear and uncertainty. It frays the fabric of society. Elections are anchor of democracy. However, if you have good, honest people too fearful to run for office because there's a perception or real threat out there that the job can get you killed, then it has a real potential of dividing society and threatening democracy itself. There is a need for a comprehensive response, and to those who can play a role, it is about listening to society around you and then acting, because what you ignore, you empower, and that's my point of view. The news continues. The Globe is up next. Until next week, have yourself a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.